The hospital parking garage was nearly empty at 2:47 a.m. when I pulled into level 3. I'd gotten the call 20 minutes earlier. My grandson Tommy had a fever of 104, and my son David was bringing him to the ER. I told him I'd meet them there, but I didn't expect to find them in a Honda Pilot in parking space C47. I walked past the vehicle twice before I recognized it. The windows were fogged up, and there were blankets draped across the back seats. When I tapped on the driver's window, David jerked awake, his hand instinctively reaching to protect something in the back seat. Tommy, my 5-year-old grandson, wrapped in a Spider-Man blanket, his face flushed with fever. David rolled down the window. His eyes were bloodshot, his beard grown out in a way I'd never seen. Dad, hey, Tommy's fever broke about an hour ago. I didn't want to wake him by bringing him inside. I looked at the back seat. There were clothes in garbage bags, a cooler, protein bar wrappers, a laptop bag wedged under the passenger seat. In the cargo area, I could see more belongings, everything organized with the precision of someone who'd been doing this for a while. David, how long have you been sleeping in your car? He looked away. Dad, it's complicated. Complicated? Your son has a 104-degree fever and you're living in a parking garage. How is that complicated? I opened the back door and felt Tommy's forehead. Still warm, but not burning like it must have been earlier. Get out of the car. Both of you. You're coming with me. I can't. The hell you can't. Dad, I have a restraining order. I'm not supposed to be within 500 feet of the house. Sarah filed it 3 weeks ago. If I show up at your place and she finds out, she can have me arrested. I stared at my son, David Martinez, 34 years old, senior IT consultant at Morrison Tech, the kid who'd graduated magna cum laude from Georgia Tech, who'd never missed a day of work in his life, who coached Tommy's t-ball team. Start from the beginning. David rubbed his face. Sarah's been planning this for months, I think, maybe longer. She filed for divorce 4 weeks ago, said I was emotionally abusive, unstable, a danger to Tommy. She had text messages as evidence, photos of me threatening her. 2 of her co-workers signed affidavits saying they'd witnessed my aggressive behavior. That's insane. You've never raised your voice at her. I know, but she had evidence, Dad. The judge issued a temporary restraining order. I had to leave the house within 2 hours. She got temporary full custody. I'm allowed supervised visitation only 2 hours every Sunday at her parents' house with her mother watching. So how do you have Tommy right now? Sarah went to that marketing conference in Chicago, 2 weeks. She was supposed to leave Tommy with her parents, but her mom fell and broke her hip the day before Sarah left. Her dad can't handle Tommy alone, he has early-stage dementia. So Sarah called me, panicked, asking if I could take Tommy until she gets back, off the books, because legally, I'm not supposed to have him unsupervised. I felt my jaw clench. She left your son with you illegally while she goes to a conference, but you can't go home? The restraining order says I can't go within 500 feet of our house. If the neighbors see me, if anyone reports it, I'm done. I lose everything. So I've been improvising. For 3 weeks? 22 days. David looked at Tommy, still sleeping. I still go to work every day. I shower at the gym before my shift. Tommy thinks we're on an adventure camping in the car, eating at different restaurants every night. He doesn't know. I looked at my son's face in the dim garage lighting. The exhaustion, the shame, the fear. Get Tommy. You're both coming home with me. Right now. Dad, the restraining order says you can't go to your house. My house is in Marietta, 30 miles away, and Sarah is in Chicago. She's not going to know. David hesitated. If she finds out, then we deal with it. But your son has a fever and you're sleeping in a parking garage. This ends tonight. I watched something break in my son's expression. Relief mixed with terror, mixed with gratitude. He nodded. We moved Tommy to my car, still sleeping. Thank God, and I followed David to a 24-hour storage facility where he'd been parking during the day. Can't stay in the same spot too long, he explained. Security patrols notice. At my house, we put Tommy in the guest room. David stood in my kitchen like he didn't know what to do with himself. When did you eat last? I asked. I had a protein bar this morning. I made eggs and toast while David showered. When he came out, wearing clothes I'd lent him, he looked more like my son and less like a refugee. He ate mechanically, not tasting anything. Then he started talking. It started about a year ago. Small things. Sarah would get texts late at night and step out of the room. She started going to the gym at 5 a.m. instead of after work. When I asked about it, she'd get defensive, say I was being controlling. You thought she was having an affair? I didn't want to think that. We'd been married 8 years. We had Tommy. I thought maybe she was stressed about work. Her company had just hired a new CMO guy named Bradley Winters. Real ambitious. Sarah's team was under a lot of pressure. Let me guess. Bradley Winters. David nodded. I didn't know for sure until last week. But yeah, I think so. How'd you find out? I didn't find out about the affair. I found out about the plan. David pulled out his phone. 3 days ago, I was going through our old laptop, the one Sarah stopped using 6 months ago. She'd synced her email to it years ago and never removed the account. I found emails between her and a divorce attorney from 8 months ago. He showed me the screen. Email after email. Sarah asking about how to document abuse, how to build a case, how to maximize her settlement, how to ensure full custody. She's been planning this since last summer? Earlier. There are calendar invites on there too, meetings with the lawyer going back almost a year, and payments. She was paying him $450 an hour for consultations on how to leave me. I felt cold. The text messages she submitted as evidence, I think they're fake. Some of them I know I never sent. But they show up in her phone records, so either she created them somehow or he shrugged. I don't know enough about technology to prove it, but you work in IT. Not that kind of IT. I do network infrastructure, not phone forensics. Then we find someone who does. David looked at me. Dad, her lawyer is Richard Castellano. You know that name? He's one of the top divorce attorneys in Atlanta. He costs $600 an hour. I can't afford to fight this. How much money do we have? We? Dad, no. How much? In my personal account? About $12,000. She cleaned out the joint account before filing. $47,000 just gone. The financial records show I authorized the transfers, but I never touched that money. She must have forged my signature on something. I did the math in my head. My pension from 30 years at Georgia Power, my retirement savings. The money wasn't unlimited, but it was enough. Tomorrow morning, we're calling a lawyer, not a divorce attorney, someone who specializes in digital forensics. If Sarah faked those messages, we're going to prove it. Dad, you can't spend your retirement money on. Watch me. I called my old friend Bill Morrison at 7 a.m. We'd worked together for 15 years before he retired to start a consulting business. He knew computers better than anyone I'd ever met, Bob Martinez. Haven't heard from you in what, 2 years? What's going on? I explained the situation. Bill listened without interrupting. Text message forgery is easier than people think, he said finally. There are apps that can create fake conversations with timestamps, contact names, everything. They look completely real on a phone. But there are ways to verify authenticity through metadata, cell tower records, device logs. If she created fake messages, we can probably prove it. How much would this cost? For me? Nothing. You helped me get my son's Eagle Scout project approved when the council was being difficult. I owe you. But if we're doing this, we're doing it right. We need a lawyer who understands digital evidence. I know someone. Stephanie Chen. She's young, but she's sharp. Handles a lot of tech cases. Not a divorce lawyer? She does family law, but her background is computer science. Used to work in cybersecurity before law school. If anyone can tear apart a digital manipulation case, it's her. We met with Stephanie Chen that afternoon in her office in Buckhead. She was 32, wearing jeans and a blazer, and she listened to David's story while taking notes on a tablet. Do you still have access to any shared accounts? She asked. Cloud storage? Streaming services? Anything? Netflix. And we had a shared Google Photos account for Tommy's pictures. Good. Don't touch it. Don't access it. But that might give us a window into what she's been doing. If she uploaded photos or documents, there'll be metadata location data, timestamps, device information. It's all embedded in the files. She pulled up something on her computer. I'm looking at the temporary restraining order filing, the text messages she submitted as evidence. Do you recognize these conversations? David looked at the screen and shook his head. Some of them, yeah, but not like this. This one, he pointed, this is from a fight we had about Tommy's preschool, but I never said any of this stuff about her being a terrible mother. I said I wished she'd been at the parent-teacher conference instead of working late. That's completely different. And this one? I never sent that at all. I was in a training session in Birmingham that entire day. I have the hotel records to prove it. Stephanie made notes. Okay, here's what we're going to do. First, I'm filing a motion to dismiss the restraining order based on fraudulent evidence. That won't work immediately, but it starts the process. Second, I'm hiring a digital forensics expert, someone who can examine both phones, pull the actual message metadata, and prove these texts are fabricated. Third, we're going to pull Sarah's phone records from the carrier. If she sent messages from your number that don't appear in the actual carrier logs, that's proof of forgery. How long will this take? 4 to 6 weeks if we're lucky. The restraining order hearing is scheduled for next month. If we can prove the evidence is fake by then, the judge will throw out the order, maybe even sanction Sarah's attorney if he knew the evidence was fabricated. And custody? If the restraining order is fraudulent, the emergency custody order collapses too. But we need to be smart about this. Right now, you have Tommy because Sarah asked you to take him while she's traveling, correct? Yeah. That's technically a violation of the custody order, even though she initiated it. When does she get back from Chicago? Sunday night. Okay. You need to return Tommy to her Sunday afternoon as planned. Don't give her any ammunition. Play by the rules. Take your supervised visits. Act like the responsible parent you are. Meanwhile, we build the case. David looked deflated. So I go back to sleeping in my car? For now. I know it's not fair. But if you violate that restraining order by showing up at the house, even if Sarah's not there, she can have you arrested, and then you lose everything. I spoke up. He's staying with me in Marietta. That's not within 500 feet of their house. Stephanie nodded. That works. Keep receipts of where you are. Keep your location services on your phone. If Sarah tries to claim you violated the order, we can prove you didn't. We left her office with a plan. It felt fragile, like one wrong move could shatter everything. But it was more than we'd had that morning. Over the next 2 weeks, David lived in my guest room. He went to work every day, came home at night, and spent every evening documenting everything he could remember. Dates, conversations, witnesses who could testify that he'd never been abusive. Stephanie's forensics expert, a woman named Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, examined both phones. She was a professor at Georgia Tech who did consulting work on the side. After 3 days, she sent her report. The text messages were fabricated. Dr. Okonkwo's report was 47 pages long, but the key findings were clear. 11 of the text messages Sarah had submitted as evidence had never passed through AT&T's servers. They existed only in screenshots. The metadata showed they'd been created using an app called TextFaker Pro, which allows users to create realistic fake conversations for entertainment purposes. 2 of the threatening messages had allegedly been sent from David's phone while his device was logged into the company VPN in Birmingham, 150 miles away. Unless David could teleport, he hadn't sent them. The photos Sarah had submitted showing David supposedly looming threateningly during an argument had been taken 3 months before the dates listed in the evidence. The EXIF data proved it. They'd been taken during a completely different conversation, probably about something mundane, and then redated and recontextualized. This isn't a case of misunderstanding, Stephanie said when she reviewed the report with us. This is deliberate fraud. She manufactured evidence to deprive you of your rights as a parent and to steal marital assets. That's potentially criminal. Can we prove she did it? Not her lawyer? The TextFaker Pro app was downloaded to her iPhone 8 months ago. The photo edits were done on her laptop. She did this personally. I felt rage settle in my chest. Not hot rage. Cold, focused rage. What about the affair? I asked. Stephanie looked uncomfortable. That's not really relevant to. It's relevant to motive. If we can prove she was having an affair, it shows why she wanted out of the marriage, and it undermines her credibility. We'd need evidence. The Google Photos account, David said quietly. She took photos at the company retreat in Savannah last summer. I remember seeing them. She was standing really close to Bradley in a few of them. At the time, I thought I was being paranoid. Dr. Okonkwo pulled the photos from the shared cloud account. In 3 of them, Sarah was with a man I assumed was Bradley Winters, company VP, early 40s. Expensive suit. In one photo, taken at what looked like a hotel bar, his hand was on her lower back. In another, they were on a beach at sunset. The pose was casual, but the body language wasn't. The metadata showed the photos were taken at 11:47 p.m. at a hotel in Savannah. According to Sarah's calendar that David had access to through the shared family account, her conference sessions had ended at 6 p.m. It wasn't proof of an affair, but it was suggestive. Stephanie made more notes. Okay, here's the nuclear option. If we want to really blow this up, we subpoena Bradley Winters, make him testify under oath about his relationship with Sarah, even if he denies the affair. It puts pressure on Sarah. And if he lies and we can prove it, that's perjury. Do it, David said. You sure? This will make things ugly. She called me unstable. She took my son. She stole $47,000 from our joint account. She made me live in my car for 3 weeks. David's voice was steady. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for the truth. The hearing was scheduled for March 15th. Sarah's lawyer, Richard Castellano, filed a motion to exclude Dr. Okonkwo's forensic report, claiming it was speculative and irrelevant. The judge denied the motion. 3 days before the hearing, Stephanie called. Sarah wants to settle. What? She's offering to drop the restraining order and agree to 50-50 custody. In exchange, you don't pursue any claims about the fabricated evidence or the missing money. She wants me to pretend none of this happened. Essentially, what about the $47,000? She'll return $30,000. Says the rest went to legal fees and living expenses. I watched David think about it. He was exhausted. The last month had aged him. What do you think I should do? He asked me. I think you do what's best for Tommy. Not what feels good. Not what's fair. What's best for your son. David closed his eyes. If we go to the hearing, it's going to get ugly. They'll subpoena Bradley. They'll dig into Sarah's affair. It'll be in court records. Tommy's going to read about this someday. Maybe, I said. Or maybe he'll read about how his dad fought for him. I don't want him to read about his parents destroying each other. David looked at Stephanie. Tell her I'll agree to the custody split, but I want $40,000 back. And I want it in writing that she admits the restraining order was based on false information. She doesn't have to admit she faked it, but she has to admit the evidence was wrong. Stephanie raised an eyebrow. That's going to be tough. Admitting the evidence was false exposes her to potential legal consequences. Then we go to the hearing. 2 days later, Sarah agreed. The settlement was signed on March 14th, 1 day before the scheduled hearing. David got $40,000 returned to his account. The restraining order was dismissed due to insufficient evidence. Sarah retained the house, but had to refinance to buy out David's equity another $83,000. The custody arrangement was 50-50, week on, week off. All decisions about Tommy's education and medical care had to be made jointly. There was no mention of the affair. No mention of Bradley Winters. No admission of fraud. It wasn't justice, but it was closure. David moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Roswell. It wasn't fancy, but it was his. Tommy had his own room, decorated with posters of dinosaurs and superheroes. On David's weeks, they'd eat breakfast together before school, and David would help with homework at night. I visited every Sunday for dinner, the 3 of us. Sometimes we'd play board games afterward. Sometimes we'd just watch a movie. One night, 3 months after the settlement, Tommy asked me, "Grandpa, why did you and Dad used to come pick me up at Grandma Sarah's house? Why couldn't Dad just come get me at home?" David and I exchanged a look. "Your mom and I were figuring some things out," David said carefully. "Sometimes grown-ups need time to solve problems, but we figured it out." "Oh, okay." Tommy went back to his Legos. Later, after Tommy was in bed, David and I sat on his small balcony. He was drinking coffee even though it was 9 p.m. Old habit from the car days, he'd told me. Stayed awake to make sure no one bothered them. "You ever wonder what would have happened if I'd pressed charges?" he asked. "If we'd gone after her for fraud?" "Sometimes. Stephanie said we had a strong case. Could have gone after Bradley's company too, hostile work environment, affair with a subordinate. Could have made a lot of noise. But you didn't." "No." He stared out at the parking lot. "I wanted to. God, I wanted to." But then I thought about Tommy, about him being 15 years old and Googling his parents' names and finding court records about his mom faking abuse claims, about reading details of her affair, about seeing his family torn apart in public records forever. You chose mercy. I chose Tommy. I put my hand on my son's shoulder. That's the same thing. We sat in silence for a while. Then David said, "Thank you. For showing up at 2 a.m., for believing me, For spending your money on lawyers when you didn't have to. I'm your father. Where else would I be? Sarah's dad didn't show up for her. When everything fell apart, he sided with her mom. Said she must have had her reasons. Well, I'm not him. No, you're not. David smiled. Just a little. Tommy told me yesterday that when he grows up, he wants to be like Grandpa. Says Grandpa fixes things. What'd you say? I said that's a pretty good thing to be. 6 months after the settlement, I got a call from Bill Morrison. You remember asking me to keep an eye on Sarah's company? Yeah. Bradley Winters was terminated last week. Violation of company ethics policy. Relationship with a subordinate. Sarah. The announcement didn't name names, but the timeline matches. And Sarah just posted on LinkedIn that she's excited to announce her new position at a different marketing firm. So she lost him too. Looks like it. Turns out the company's HR had been investigating for months. Someone must have tipped them off. I didn't say anything. Bob, you didn't. I have no idea what you're talking about. Bill laughed. You sneaky son of a bitch. I just made a phone call. Mentioned to someone in their HR department that they might want to look into some calendar irregularities. Company resources being used for personal travel. Expense reports that didn't match up. That sort of thing. You played the long game. I told David I wouldn't pursue charges. I never said I'd let her keep everything. Does David know? No. And he doesn't need to, because that's the thing about being a father. Sometimes your kids need you to fight their battles, and sometimes they need you to let them choose mercy while you quietly handle the justice part yourself. David's doing well now. Tommy's thriving. They have their routines, their inside jokes, their weekend adventures. Once a month, the three of us go camping, real camping, not in a parking garage. Tommy's 8 now. He doesn't remember much about that year. He remembers it was confusing for a while, and that he got to stay with Grandpa a lot, and that Dad seemed sad sometimes. But mostly he remembers that we showed up, that when everything fell apart at 2 a.m. in a hospital parking garage, his family didn't abandon him. That's what he'll carry with him. Not the court battles or the fake evidence or the betrayal. Just the knowledge that when things get hard, the people who love you show up. Even at 2 a.m., even in a parking garage, even when it costs everything. You show up, you fight, and you do whatever it takes to bring your people home. That's what family means.